Hi, I'm Ashley Swartz, CEO of Furious Corp. Welcome to our 12-part series, Building the Adaptable Media Enterprise, co-published with BTV. Welcome to episode 11 today. We are moving along. So I want to talk about inventory management best practices, right? Along the lines of looking outside of media for best practices and guidance on how to manage the wave of disruption we have today. I really wanted to look at inventory management specifically, right? Just because we sell time and space, which are sort of intangible goods, doesn't mean that we don't have the same business challenges that companies or manufacturers that sell physical, tangible products do, right? These are still assets at the end of the day, and there are different product variants and combinations of customers, locations, from source facilities, et cetera. It's the same issue and the same challenges. We just call them different things. Inventory management is getting a lot of momentum in the space today, right? It's becoming, it's about sort of maximizing revenue. For new media, it's more important to ensure that revenue is actually delivered, because ultimately these channels are a bit unwieldy and incredibly complex, and we need to get a handle around them. The ultimate is that at the end of the day, we have more and more ad platforms, more and more ad products and variants, and we have more and more customers. And that makes it much more difficult. So in developing software for media companies, obviously, which is what Furious does, we sort of look to a lot of times my experience in manufacturing, and specifically my experience in building sort of price management and inventory management solutions and forecasting solutions for a component manufacturer that had over 100,000 products. They were in 42 countries, and it was an incredibly complex supply chain. Ultimately, at the end of the day, in this omni-channel world, the problems are the same, and math is a lot of what solving them or mitigating risk it requires. But ultimately, it's about having the right tools at the right time and knowing the right problems to solve. And I think that's a really big, important part of it. I reference the math because it's really just about sort of optimization, but optimization for the right outcomes, right? We've built an industry that we sort of established our own measures of success. And what I'm suggesting is that tying it back to revenue and yield and things like profit optimization will allow us to have a conversation within our own organizations amongst all stakeholders, the C-suite in particular, and bring everybody to the table, and to be able to, if we use the same vocabulary, we'll get our organizations there faster and be more adaptable quicker. So let's look at some of the best practices that I've taken from other industries about inventory management and contextualize that for media. So what are some pillars of a good inventory management sort of process internally, right? The first is that demand planning and inventory forecasting are foundational, period, full stop, right? Ultimately, managing your inventory, being able to predict it is critical. And that is something that within media companies, we've maybe done for one format, for another, for specific sales channels, but we really have to look at it as an integrated process, and we have to ultimately tie it back to the revenue forecast. Quite often, demand planning or inventory forecasting is part of the ad ops process, and revenue forecasting is part of the sales and the finance process. They need to somehow come together and close that loop. And that's what enterprise software can enable, or the right inventory and yield management software can enable. We need to properly categorize our ad products, right, and actually create a product product library, if you will, right? Other industries, if you look at them, they have SKUs, product families, product categories, products, things like that. That same, we may not need to use the same language or nomenclature or structure, but ultimately we have to have a sense of what products we're selling, where, and to whom, right? And their value. So it's really understanding about your business and where it's been, and being able to access that information quickly and with ease, so that you really have a line of sight to your business going forward. And that obviously informs a much more accurate and valuable demand planning and revenue forecasting process. Automate, automate, automate. I didn't need to contextualize this for media. It was pretty straightforward, right? This is about automating. So it's not just about maximizing profit and reducing operational costs in this inventory management, which can be highly manual and highly cost intensive. That's just part of it. The other part of it is that when you automate and you get your systems to do a lot of the work, and you eliminate things like manual reporting or manual batch extracts and things like that, and these crazy macros that live within spreadsheets that somebody owns, that if they got hit by a bus, your organization would be hosed. That person is invaluable, but goodness, they've been working so hard for their lives to be made easier, right? Automation also improves the accuracy and efficacy of the work that comes out of your inventory management or your yield management solution, right? If you're automating your systems and connecting them, the data has greater integrity, your output is more accurate, and ultimately at the end of the day, if the business logic is correct, you're gonna be making better decisions as a result. Make it easier for the advertiser to buy again. If you do that, not only does it help you better predict demand and it helps you better manage inventory, then ultimately what you do is you increase it, right? This is where programmatic and other solutions and sales channel partners can be invaluable. You know what a customer's bought from you historically if you've done the preceding things correctly, right? You have a line of sight, you understand what they buy, what their KPIs are. Marketers are pretty steadfast, right? They have sort of measurable KPIs and then they have brand KPIs. It's pretty straightforward and they typically buy based on one or the other. You know that. Make it easy for them, right? Integrate the value chain as much as you can, buyers and sellers, and bring them closer, and use partners to do that to make buying and spending more money with you and buying your media easier. It's also going to help you manage your inventory a lot better, right? Make goods easier as well, right? Ultimately, you know that you're going to have to do this. You understand what the buys are, and if you actually integrate the forecasting process into your planning process from the perspective of make goods and liability inventory, you're going to be able to better fulfill that and make it much easier. It shouldn't be starting from scratch and like building a whole new plan from the bottom up when you're actually fulfilling on a make good. Keep a buffer, anticipate liability, anticipate make goods. That's what a good demand planning and forecasting process will enable you to do. And if you have that line of sight and you mitigate risk or risk manage ahead of time, then when it actually comes to it, you're never going to be increasingly over time, you will have less and less challenges and issues where you'll have to do a make good or you'll have a liability and you won't be able to fulfill it. This is all about managing risk and optimizing outcomes, right? So it's deciding on the right outcomes with which we're optimizing, and I'm suggesting we shift those to business metrics like revenue and profit optimization and minimization of operational costs. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think that it will enable our organizations to work better together and be more collaborative and get us there faster. And if it ultimately ends up happening on both sides of the value chain, meaning marketers start to look at advertising investment as media start to look at managing their advertising portfolio, perhaps then the value chain will get closer and the conversations will be healthier. I welcome your points and your introspection. Thanks.